I finally realized that our story on why we can't connect is because of that Judas spirit, right? Judas thought of only himself when Jesus was thinking of the masses. And every time one family goes to fight for reparations, that is the Judas spirit. Every time you say, I'm only thinking about me and mine, that is the Judas spirit. And the reason we could not come out of this 500 year grievance is because the key to getting out of it is to no longer use a Judas spirit of thinking for oneself. It has to be a thought process for the masses. For some reason, we as a people kind of get trapped in this repetitive behavior of doing research and promoting the history, doing research and promoting the same history, fighting in wars and then stopping, fighting in wars and then stopping. The court case that's currently in District of Columbia of Appeals 245263 is taking all of that information, all of that history, and moving it forward, okay? Because there are processes and steps to achieve what the African American community have been protesting for years and generations upon generations. However, I'm not sure what was in the minds of the people before, but we are now taking all that information, all that history, all the documentaries, all the movies and the statements from people who were slaves telling their stories, and people of the families who have shared their stories, and we put all that together and pushing it through the final steps on balancing the justices, establishing the laws, and all that. So what I'll start doing going forward is just using your research and showing how the court case is an answer to what your research is talking about, okay? Because I don't know how to make it any clearer on how important this court case is to you without dancing and singing.
An American history book, 7th, 8th grade, high school, you will read or see nothing about what you have talked about here this morning.
Well, perhaps that's what the reality is for in your neighborhood. I grew up in Oak Cliff, Texas, and I was taught by black women who taught me my history. So I think there are many people, you talk about hard research, black people have been doing hard research on this question for a long time. George Washington Williams wrote a history of the Negro people in America in 1882. W.B. Du Bois was writing in the early 20th century. So I think the reality in this conversation reminds me, black people fighting white supremacy in this country is a bit like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. I mean, we've thrown generation after generation after generation of brilliant black people at trying to get white people to understand the truth of their society. I have no interest in throwing more black genius at this question. So I think if you want your children to know the history of America, you should read the historians, whether it's Dr. Kendi, you should read Evelyn Higginbotham, you should read Henry Louis Gates, you should read W.B. Du Bois, you should read, I could send you we should post on the show a whole list of black historians who have taught the history of this country, and perhaps some white ones as well. David Blight just won the Pulitzer Prize for his history, and he's a white man trying to get people to see the history of the country. So I think it's been happening. It ought to continue to happen, and those who want to know
is that if you pick up